Hello. Hey guys. How's it going? My name's Eva, and uh, thanks, Rachel, for having me be your astrologer for the evening. Um, excuse my looks. Not very put together right now. I just had my baby like 3-4 days ago, Tuesday, so I am, you know, new to motherhood. So here I am just gonna let you guys know how I read with astrology. Some of you, excuse me, I don't know how many of you guys are already pretty familiar with astrology, but I studied evolutionary astrology, and so that's kind of looking at our secure and insecure expressions of versions of ourselves, and it's learning to let go of the insecure or unevolved versions of ourselves, and then growing towards the more secure or evolved versions of the signs and placements that show up in your chart. And so like your birth chart, it can be seen as like a map of your personality. And with evolutionary astrology, normally I'll also go into like your North Node, which is your karmic purpose, and kind of like what your soul is called here to do. But since we're doing kind of a excuse me, very basic reading, I'm gonna be going into just like the big threes. We call them the three biggies, which is your sun, your moon, and your rising or your ascendant. And so the sun is your main identity, and that's what you can't help to be. That's just like your outward personality. And the moon is your emotional inner personality. It's a side that you feel more protective of, so that tends to come out more when you're with people that you feel safe around, because you don't really share that side of you as easily. And then over the top of both your sun and moon is your ascendant, or your learned identity, your personality, and that's what you were taught when you're younger, or what was expected of you. So it's kind of like your go-to personality in new situations. Some people call it like the mask you wear, like with first impressions. So I'm gonna just start off here with Rachel. Happy belated birthday, by the way. And again, thank you for having me do this for y'all. So Rachel, you have your Sagittarius sun in the 4th house, and then you have your Aries moon in the 8th house, and then you have a Virgo ascendant. So in this life, what you're learning to let go of, like the learned identity of yours, it may have been like growing up, it felt like you were never perfect enough, and had yourself held to such high standards to which it might have caused a lot of anxiety for you. Maybe being kind of like a worry wart, and that paired with the possibility of or when you're not sure of who you are, you may have felt like you had to stay small to stay safe at home, or allowed yourself to be too influenced by the needs and wants of your family, despite feeling as though you knew more than them. It could have been that you were very blunt with your family and came off as a know-it-all, which could have festered into repressing your emotions and creating power struggles, as you could have then acted out with like impulsivity, and maybe have gotten hot-tempered or feeling like a need to conquer and be too competitive with those around you. And that's kind of more so in the youth. So like the things we're learning to let go of is usually stuff that we had been more identified as when we were younger. And then so now you're learning to own, or maybe you've already grown into someone who's helpful, detail-oriented, and organized, which then gives you confidence to tap into your wisdom and lean into your adventurous self as you explore how to create a loving family and enjoy your comfort zone. Being in touch with your emotions also helps you to tap into your independence and motivates you to dive into your shadow, which allows yourself to let go of your old identities, since the 8th house also deals with sex and intimacy, transformations, and ego death. So it seems really fitting that you're embarking on transitioning from maiden to motherhood. Congratulations again, by the way. It really is like the biggest transformation we as women can go through. And I can see how you'll be a super fun and active mama with that Sagittarius sun and the Aries moon, both very like active, and Sag is so playful, I think, and like joyful, while maintaining a very beautiful home with that attention to detail Virgo ascendant. So yeah, I'm excited for you. It's gonna be a fun journey, I'll just say. The sleep deprivation is very real though. So rest as much as you can, and let's see, I'm gonna see the next person here. Excuse me. So I have Amy next up. So Amy has a Taurus sun in the 5th house, Virgo moon in the 9th house, and then a Capricorn ascendant. So very earthy. That's all earth in your big 3. And so with all that, you might be learning to let go of the learned identity of being too controlling, maybe being too focused on your reputation and overly traditional. Your outward personality with Taurus in the 5th house may have shown up as having been lazy, materialistic, and overindulgent, which could have caused you to become unwilling to join up with the group, as the 5th house also deals with social circles as well. So let me just check here. Excuse me. But yeah, and always feeling like you have to get your way. So this placement could also signify excessive risk-taking, especially in romance, that 5th house. And when you're moody, you may become critical or judgmental and assume that you know what others mean without asking them, and feeling unappreciated, as you may be feeling like only you know the truth of things. And when you're, so that's all, some of that might not resonate. So the thing with astrology is kind of like you take what resonates and leave what doesn't. This is kind of, like I said, a very general sense of what the signs and houses indicate in someone. And I always start with like the insecure expression of every sign and house placement, and then because that's what we're learning to leave behind. And it's okay if you still have these tendencies. They're all human tendencies that we have, because I'm also a Taurus sun, so you know, I still like to indulge, and sometimes I can still be lazy. It's just the human experience, you know. But what you're learning to own and grow into, if you've not done so already, is tapping into into your ambitious role of being a leader and being goal-oriented as you accept responsibility. Your life force is strengthened by you embracing your creativity as you allow for yourself to follow your heart and move steadily and slowly towards your growth as you become self-sufficient and enjoy the senses. Your inner personality would come out when you can be helpful, detail-oriented, and analytical when it comes to pondering your unique philosophies about life and finding your truth and traveling the world. So that's like the Virgo 9th house there. And with those placements, I'd say that you'd probably make a really great travel buddy, since you've got a sense for the finer things in life, and with that Taurus sun, and are probably pretty organized with that Virgo moon. So you probably have a natural knack for wanting to like see the world, since your moon falls in the 9th house. That represents higher knowledge and long distance travel. And your Capricorn ascendant probably would make sure that everything goes to plan as well, because they're very, I'd say very like on top of it when it comes to getting things done. Okay, so next up I have Ariana. And you also have a Taurus sun, but that one's your sun's in the 6th house. You also have a Libra moon in the 11th house. And then you've got a Sagittarius ascendant. So you've got earth, air, fire in your big three. And so Ariana, your learned identity that you may be learning to let go of, if you haven't done so already, is one that might be self-righteous, possibly prone to exaggeration, and coming across as a know-it-all. That's just kind of the Sagittarius learning to let go of qualities. And being unsure of yourself might get you stuck in your comfort zone and becoming overly indulgent, which could then stop you from being able to go with the flow. If you start to overthink things, creating anxiety for yourself, especially if you feel the need for everything to be perfect. Repressing your emotions can lead to being codependent, indecisive, and a people pleaser, especially when it comes to your friend group or community, to the point that you might detach from your own emotions if they conflict with the group's emotions, and then having your identity intertwined with the group's identity. And that's coming from your Libra moon 11th house, as Libras are very people oriented, and what you're learning to own, if you haven't done so, is to follow your intuition as you seek answers to life's big questions, and use the wisdom you have to allow yourself to be dependable to create daily routines which would allow you to take responsibility for your life and taking care of your body with things like a healthy diet and exercise, as the 6th house with your, is it your Taurus sun in the 6th house? Yeah, the 6th house is all about like your health too, so taking care of your body, whether that be through diet and exercise. And let me just check here. So yeah, it might be kind of like a slow and steady growth, but that's how it is for Tauruses, as we tend to move at a grazing bull's pace, slow and steady. But when you're in touch with your emotions, you may feel cooperative, balanced, and focused on group harmony, which would help you find like-minded friends that share your big picture ideals, and you can enjoy the benefits of being part of a community. And with these placements, I could see as someone who can get the collective to move towards a greater good, as like the 11th house is all about the expression of community. It's like big picture thinking, and especially with that like Sagittarian optimism with your ascendant, people would likely want to follow your lead because with the Libra moon, you value harmonious relationships and also being of service to others. So that is what I have gathered from your big three there. And then let's see here. And I hope some of this resonates with everyone. You know, it's, like I said, very general readings. Usually I would dive a lot deeper into the rest of the chart, but we've got quite a few people, so we're keeping it simple, as simple as can be. So next I have Ashley, and you have a Virgo sun in the 11th house. Actually that's 12th house. So I read in whole sign, by the way. I don't remember if I mentioned that earlier. There's different types of ways you can calculate a chart, and most online calculators will calculate your chart in Placidus, but I was taught to read in whole sign, and sometimes I'll look at Placidus to see if there's any significant changes with the house systems. So Ashley, you have Virgo sun in the 12th house in whole sign, and then you also have your Virgo moon in 12th house whole sign, but in Placidus your sun becomes the 11th house, and then your moon becomes the 10th house. So that just means that you might resonate with both 12th house, 11th house, and 10th house placements when it comes to your Virgo qualities. And then you also have your Libra ascendant. So you've got very earthy and air, earth and air in your big three. And what you're learning to let go of is codependency and people pleasing, which may have caused a lot of anxiety with some deeper feelings of being critical and judgmental of yourself and possibly others. There's a really strong sense for perfectionism, especially with that double Virgo. Virgos do have a tendency to like want everything to be perfect. You know, it's like they have a very keen eye for detail, and may also feel really unappreciated because they try so hard for others, and if they don't get the same back, they don't feel appreciated. And it's important for y'all to know that you're doing the good work. And so if feelings of being unsure of who you are come up, maybe that develops into some escapist tendencies and hiding yourself from the world, or like isolating yourself. Because in whole sign you have your sun and your moon in the 12th house, and the 12th house is a very spiritual house, and sometimes though it can also come off as like you living in a fantasy world, like you're not always present in the moment. But then the 11th house, like your sun being there, that would be more group oriented, and like that can be like your social friend group. So a lot of emphasis on your let me take a look. Yeah, like it can also have been feeling really like cliquey, or like you detach your own emotions from, like if they conflict with the rest of the group's emotions, like you just kind of go along with whatever the group is saying and not really putting your own opinions and thoughts in if they differ from that, since you might feel like you always have to belong and don't want to cause any conflict. And then your moon in Placidus, it's 10th house, so that could come up as like being very career driven, since the 10th house is about like your reputation and career. So it could also be seen as like feeling burdened by other people's opinions of you. But then owning into that would be just letting your career take center stage. But that's, so since you had like such a very difference with your 12th house being in whole sign, it's like you might have resonated with the 12th house for your sun and moon, or you might also have resonated with the 11th house sun and 10th house moon, you know. So it all kind of works. So like I said, with astrology, it's like take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, Virgo, you come off as someone who is very helpful and resourceful. And with that Libra, you're probably very like fun to be around, a social butterfly, and really focused on that group harmony. So I would just be careful about falling into like wanting to just like hide and be isolated from the world with all that 12th house energy there. Okay, let's see. Next I have Chelsea. You also have Virgo sun, and that's in the 10th house. Then you have your Aries moon in the 5th house, and then a Sagittarius ascendant. So, all right, Chelsea. So that's a lot of earth and fire. Yes. And what you're learning to let go of, it might have been that growing up you might have felt like you were too self-righteous and blunt when it comes to sharing your truth with others. That Sagittarius ascendant there. And then that paired with the possibility of being unsure of who you are could have led to becoming overly critical and a worrywart when it comes to your career and reputation. So that's coming from that Virgo sun in the 10th house. There also may be feelings of being overly burdened by others' expectations of you. And like always feeling the need to control things. With that Aries moon too, it could also be that there has been some impulsivity and aggressiveness, maybe feeling like very competitive or a need to conquer things, like situations or maybe even people, when it comes to like risk taking, especially in romance, and feeling the need to always have an adoring audience or getting your way. Then that's coming from the 5th house. And that now you may still have some of these tendencies, or you might not have had those for a while. Like I said, a lot of these learning to let go of aspects are developed when we're young. So it's like we're evolving from that. And so what you're learning to own and grow into is, becoming organized, analytical, helpful with that Virgo sun. And that would show up in your career and allowing your career to be a focus for you. And also becoming a leader as someone that people can look up to. And also being comfortable with being seen. So I know Virgos can also be worrywarts and like high strung, but you know, you can learn to let that go. If you can learn to go with the flow, you know, then it can also help with your career. I've got baby here on my lap, so I'm hoping she stays asleep for the rest of these. And you have also with the Aries moon, so learning to own your independence and tapping into that like motivated, self-reliant, go-getter energy, especially when it comes to like embracing your creativity with that fifth house and your self-expression. So following your heart and birthing new creations into the world, like that could look like your own business or some type of creative project, maybe like art, music, acting. So yes, so I would say someone like that. I could see, you know, someone with these placements having maybe having your own business or being an artist in some way, or let's see, someone who likes to study a lot too with the Sagittarius ascendant. So let's see here. I hope that some of that resonated for you, Chelsea. And I'm gonna move on to Jen. All right, Jen. So you have Pisces sun in the 12th house, a Virgo moon in the 6th house, and then an Aries ascendant. So you've got that water, earth, and fire going on in your big three. So I think you're the only one here with like a Pisces in your chart too. So with the Pisces sun, okay, so yeah, what we are learning to let go of, your learned identity here is being too impulsive or self-centered and maybe a little bit competitive, as you then also may have suffered with some escapist tendencies or poor boundaries, maybe feeling like things are out of your control very often, with that Pisces sun. And since that's in the 12th house too, it's kind of expanded upon. Some astrologers equate each sign to the houses, like first house being equated to Aries all the way through Pisces with the 12th house. And so with the 12th house, you might also have some escapist tendencies there, also with the Pisces. So Pisces like to kind of hide the fish, you know, and so we also kind of live in like this delusion or fantasy world at times. I have a Pisces moon, so I kind of get that. And it can also show up as addictions as well. So whether that be like smoking, drinking, could even be technology, like your phone. I know a lot of people have that nowadays, though, phone addiction. But just watching that, and also maybe there could be an inability to go with the flow, or like overthinking things, and needing everything to be perfect with the Virgo moon in the 6th house. So yeah, it could be also like being a little bit critical or judgmental, and overthinking. Oh, baby. Sorry, you guys. She has been napping for a couple hours. Okay, she's okay. So I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not trying to get distracted here. But then so you're just kind of like learning to let go of all of those qualities from those escapist tendencies, and maybe a victim mentality, or being like that high strung, and learning to own your independent self, becoming self-reliant, with that Aries ascendant, and then tapping into your spiritual self and like connecting to source, or God, whatever you want to call that for yourself, as Pisces is very much about like trusting the divine and going with the flow. So it's kind of like, actually you were born on a full moon, because the Pisces and Virgo are opposite, and it's actually a direct opposition. So I actually looked it up, and yeah, it was a full moon on the day you were born. So there could be like a power struggle when it comes to like the two sides of you. So because Pisces and Virgo, they're opposites, so it's like you might feel one way, but then also another way very strongly. But it would really help for you to enjoy your solitude as well, and healing karma through understanding your past wounds and hidden emotions, which then could lead to forgiveness. I know we all could, benefit from forgiving others, or even ourselves. And then with that Virgo moon in the 6th house, becoming organized and taking responsibility for your own life, especially when it comes to your body. So like I said earlier with someone else, the 6th house relates a lot to like your daily routines and your health, and of being of service to others as well. So I know there's, personally with the Pisces, I can be very disorganized. And then so with Virgo, I know they want to be organized. So there could be that like back and forth there. And so let's see here. All right, so that was Jen. I'm going to move on to Josie. Oh, okay, Josie. So you have a Cancer sun in the 12th house. And then you've got your Cancer moon also in the 12th house. And then you've got Leo ascendant. So water and fire, lots of 12th house there too. And so what you may be learning to let go of is being maybe like needy of validation, prideful and overly dramatic with the Leo, and maybe feeling like you always need to be the center of attention, as you also could become very moody and overly protective of others with that Cancer. Cancers can be like very smothering when they become overly protective. So since it's kind of your moon and your sun, they kind of, like, your outward personality and inner personality are very similar, like your emotions and then your the way you just naturally are. So learning to kind of just like let go of being like fearful and defensive and overly sensitive, and to tap into that nurturing caretaker, protective mama bear aspect of yourself, as Cancers are also very like family oriented. They can also be really like have a tough exterior but very soft underneath, like the crab. And so with that in the 12th house, kind of like what we just went through with Jen, it may be looking like, you may also have escapist tendencies, or feeling like life's too hard, or like feeling very victimized, or like oh, woe is me type, but leaving all of that behind to really embrace the spiritual perspective that you may have, and connecting to the divine. So a lot of that could be prayer, looking like prayer, and following your intuition, as Cancers are also extremely intuitive. The water signs especially are very intuitive. And then with like the Leo ascendant too, it's like becoming a ruler of your own life, and really tapping into that like really fun-loving and romantic, passionate part of yourself. So with these placements, I would gather you to be someone who really cares about their friends, their friend group, their family, and like someone who's very generous, as Leos like to give. I feel like Leos are very giving, and with that 12th house too, you may be, I don't know if you've already been like connecting to a higher power, or if you're embarking on your journey, but it could be helpful for you to tap into that if you haven't already. So that was Josie. And now I'm going to move on to Kasey. So Kasey, you did not have your time of birth. So without the time of birth, we can't really know the rising sign, since the rising sign is whatever sign was rising on the horizon at time of birth. And then the rising then lets us know which houses each planet sits in. So, and that's okay though, no worries. We'll work with what we do know. And we know that you have a Capricorn sun. And the thing with the day you were born too, you're born like, I think it was January 20th. And the moon moves signs every every 2 days. And so if you're born earlier in the day, you would have been a Cancer moon, or depending on the time you're born, you would have been either a Leo moon or Cancer moon. So with your Capricorn sun, your outward personality. You could be a little reputation focused, maybe closed-minded, but we're learning to let go of those qualities more so as we step into more of your leadership role and being a provider, as Capricorn is very responsible and ambitious. So you may feel like a desire to be goal-oriented or have a legacy for yourself. So with the moon, I guess you could figure out which feels more resonant with you. So with your moon potentially being in Leo, there could be a tendency for being over dramatic, prideful, needy of validation, and always wanting to be the center of attention. But then we want to own or grow into becoming a ruler of your own life, very fun-loving, romantic, and someone who just loves being adored, which I feel like with the Cancer moon, it's a little different since they can be very homebody and overly sensitive and protective of others. So to the point that, it's too much, and kind of letting that go and going towards being very nurturing, safety oriented, family oriented, and overall sensitive. So Cancers are a lot more, I feel like they're one of the most sensitive signs of all the signs. So depending on which one, but then again, Leo can be very sensitive too. We all are sensitive, but I guess depending on which one that you resonate with more, that could also help figure out what your moon sign is. And then there's also ways to figure out your chart, but it takes a lot of plugging in different times and then seeing what resonates, and maybe talking to a really advanced astrologer and rectifying your chart that way. They would ask you a lot of questions to get to know what aspects might be accurate. So but it's okay that you don't know your time. I'm just saying there's different ways you could try to rectify your chart if you really wanted to try to do that. And so I hope that was okay and a little helpful. So the next person we're gonna go into is Maivy. I'm guessing, so we've got 3 more people. So Maivy, you have Libra Sun in the 5th house, Taurus Moon in the 12th house, and then a Gemini Ascendant. All right, Maivy. So what you're learning to let go of. So your learned identity here. You may have, growing up, you might have felt really scattered or indecisive and ungrounded, maybe with a tendency for gossip. And that's coming from the Gemini Ascendant there. And then that paired with at times of being unsure of who you are. You might have felt like you had to be a people pleaser, possibly coming across as shallow and always needing an adoring audience. And that's kind coming through with your Libra sun in the 5th house. And in repressing your emotions, you may have become lazy and stubborn, isolating yourself from the world or feeling as though life's too hard. There could also be a tendency for addictions as well. Like I mentioned earlier, whether that be smoking or drinking, and that could be keeping you stuck in your comfort zone. And that relates back to your Taurus moon in the 12th house. So now we're learning to own into and grow into someone who is more like a social chameleon, quick-witted and intelligent, which would then give you the confidence to become more balanced and refined as you embrace your creativity and follow your heart. And that could be something that you're birthing into this world, like your own business or a creative project. And being in touch with your emotions allows yourself to have deep enjoyment of the senses as you lean into connecting to a higher power and healing karma through understanding past wounds and hidden emotions. So with these placements, you seem like someone who really loves being a social butterfly and maybe with a keen eye for aesthetics. You can always catch what's beautiful and also being able to create beautiful works. You're probably very patient, kind, and dependable, someone that people can rely on. There's some strong spiritual tendencies too, and you could probably benefit from embracing a higher power, tuning into source, God, or whatever you would like to call that, while being careful not to fall into escapist tendencies or like fantasy worlds. So that was for Maivy there. I hope some of that resonated. And then Michelle is next. Michelle, we have a Scorpio sun in the 6th house, an Aries moon in the 11th house, and a Gemini ascendant. So we've got that water, fire, air. Nice. Very fiery though, since Scorpio is actually also traditionally ruled by Mars. So there's that fiery aspect of Scorpio as well. So the mask that you're learning to let go of, or that learned identity, if you haven't already done so, is one of being scattered, indecisive, superficial, and that's coming from the Gemini ascendant. Maybe also like to play devil's advocate as well. You may also, if you're unsure of who you are, that could manifest as being too intense, as obsessive, and having this all or nothing mentality, especially when it comes to your daily routines. Being overly moody could lead you to becoming cliquey and feeling the need to belong, while also feeling a competitive nature, like you have to conquer or act on your impulses too often. That's coming from your Aries moon in the 11th house there. And what you're learning to grow into is someone who is curious, intelligent, adaptable, and playful. And as you become more confident, there's a depth and deep understanding of your own and other people's emotions, along with the willingness to transform. And that plays out really strongly in your daily routines and taking care of your body. It can also show up as being someone that people are drawn to or magnetized to, especially in the workplace, since the 6th house also deals with like your day job and coworkers. And your inner personality allows you to be a risk taker with that Aries moon there. And Also being fearless when it comes to finding like-minded friends that share your big picture ideals. People likely see you as someone who's really confident and they feel good about being in your circle. So, I mean, what I gather from those placements is someone who, especially in the workplace and in their friend groups, you're probably likely very charming and like playful, but also someone that like is willing and able to really dive deep with people. You know, you can go deep. So at first glance, maybe people think you're like superficial or like, you know, surface level. Geminis can come off as that way sometimes. But then with that Scorpio, it's like there's a lot of depth and intensity there. So it's like, oh, who is that kind of thing. So, yeah, people are probably drawn to you. And I hope that resonates for you, Michelle. And then we have Sam. I think that's the last one here, Sam. And you've got Libra Sun in the 11th house. And then you have your Sagittarius Moon in the first house, which you also have your Sagittarius Ascendant or Rising. So your Moon is in the first house with your Rising. And the rising sign always falls in the first house, by the way. So, Sam, I'd say the learned identity that you are learning to let go of is someone who might be very like self-righteous and blunt, maybe truthful to a fault, and that could show up as being maybe like shallow or becoming too like codependent as you try to find a group of friends that you belong to, and that can also show up as like maybe you don't allow yourself to put yourself forward to save your place in your friend group, if that makes sense. And that could have shown up when you were younger. Like all of the letting go aspects are usually showing up from our youth. So maybe being like very codependent and a people pleaser. So let's see, again, like with your friend groups, detaching from your own emotions if they conflict with the groups. So along with this like feeling of hiding behind a mask. So especially with the moon in the first house there could be a tendency to want to hide, but with the Sagittarius there too, maybe being oblivious to the needs of others. As we learn to like move into and own up to our wisdom, you know, Sagittarius being the wise one, the philosopher, and becoming the explorer and seeker, especially when it comes to the self. So the moon being in the self, there could be a lot of self-exploration there, and like really tapping into like your philosophies, which would then help with creating a positive self-image for you if you put yourself first. And then with becoming more cooperative and focused on group harmony and navigating those relationships within your friends, your friend groups, and refining that. So finding like-minded friends that share your optimism and being optimistic for the future, and having the benefits of being part of a community. So I'd say from those placements there, you may be someone who is very like collective focused. So it's like you have a vision for how things could and should be, and you aspire to create that world that you deem as more fit, like what's best for society. And you may want to find people who share those same ideals as you. Sorry, I was like getting distracted. There's like we have mice, like pet mice, and I think one got out. So, anyways, I hope that resonated for you, Sam. And I believe that is it. So I know that was a bit long, a little under an hour. So I'm so glad that baby slept through that. And I hope you guys had fun with the readings. I know I noticed that a lot of you guys have, there's a lot of Virgo, a lot of Aries, a lot of Sag energy. The only, sign I noticed that wasn't included in any of these was Aquarius, which I thought was interesting, but we all actually have, most of us, because I noticed we're all born around, 1992 or 91. So I think all of us in that generation would have Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius. So, but I just thought it was funny, none of y'all had Aquarius in your big three. So, but anyways, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your evening, and have a fun time together. That sounds like a fun party. And thank you again, Rachel, so much for having me. And congrats again on the new baby on the way. So thank you so much. And if you ever wanted to dive deeper into your chart too, because there's all the other planets like Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all of these that play a part in the roadmap to your personality or your chart. So, I'm open to a deep dive for readings, deeper dives into the readings. Or I can also refer you to a friend of mine who is an amazing astrologer as well. So anyways, thank you so much, guys, and take care. Bye.